Hello, Empowered Principals. Welcome to Inspired. I'm so honored to be here with you today. For those of you who are brand new to the Empowered Principal world, welcome. We're so honored to have you here. And if you've known me for a little while, just drop in the chat and say hello if you're able to catch this live. My name is Angela Kelly. I am a certified life and leadership coach for school leaders. And this course today, this masterclass called Inspired, is my latest work. It's very profound. I am taking school leaders on a journey, and I hope you'll come along with us next year in EPC, which is the Empowered Principal Collaborative. It's one of my programs that I offer for school leaders. It's a group coaching program, and we're going to work on the concept of inspiration, being inspired, being fueled by inspired, identifying as a school leader who is inspired and is a thought leader, and not just in the sense of the actions that you take, but in the energy in which you show up, the way that you feel. So welcome to this course. I'm delighted to share it with you. And as I was contemplating the purpose, the reason behind Inspired, I wanted to be able to articulate it. And initially, my thought was, I want to inspire principals. I want them to feel inspired. I want them to be fueled with the energy of inspiration. Why? Because it feels great. When you are in the energy of inspiration, it feels really good. And then I started thinking about this at a deeper level. I'm like, yes, I do want them to feel inspired. But what happens is we just want to grab the inspiration and run so we can stay busy. We can continue to overwork, overplan, overthink, overdo, overschedule, and exhaust ourselves. That's not what this program is about. So what I'm here to do is to actually invite you into slowing down. Before we reimagine and reignite and reinvent and get into momentum of inspiration and the action of inspiration, I want you and I to take some time together today to contemplate why we're not feeling the inspiration, or what inspiration is and where it comes from, and when it's authentic and when it's not authentic, when it's imposed upon us, or when it feels like it's very visceral and very real inside of us and very compelling. So before we dive into reimagining, reigniting, and reinventing, which was my original intention, I'm actually going to invite us to slow down, take some deep breaths, and then to contemplate what's working, what's not, and how inspiration is the identity that we want to step into in order to lead our schools, not with just high level energy all of the time, but with this balance of trust and knowingness and inspiration, but along with sufficiency. So one of the things that I talk about with my clients in EPC, which is my group coaching program, Empowered Principal Collaborative, the acronym is EPC, we talk a lot about the intention of education, the intention of school leadership. And this is about the intention of loving your job, of choosing to be inspired, of identifying as a school leader who leads from inspiration, who leads because they slow their brains down, they slow their mind down, and they do the thought work. They do the visionary work. They do the balance of planning and action, two different types of energy, right? There's the kind where you're sitting down and thinking and contemplating and being inspired and imagining how great your school can be in all the places that you can take them in your leadership role. And then there's the action, the everyday, you're out there doing school leadership. So there's being a leader, being a thought leader, being a visionary, being a planner, being a contemplator, right? Almost a muse, being thought provocative and provoking thought and provoking inspiration. And then there's the action. You go out and you do the thing. You be the leader. So there's believing and doing, and or believing and thinking and pondering. And then there's the action of like the technical doing. Okay. So this is the hour where you get to lean back, reflect, enjoy, relax, and just ponder and contemplate. I want to go backwards a little bit in time just to create some greater perspective. Because what we're doing here today and right now is tunnel vision like this. I want us to go back in time and notice what education, the structure of it, and why it might feel challenging for some of us right now, many of us, most of us. If you think about why we're banging our head against a brick wall, why it feels that way, is because we are trying to solve current problems with past ways of thinking, with past concepts, with past paradigms, with past societal needs, with past demands, with past structures and systems, with past experiences, with past expectations, with past understandings. We are trying to approach the current day and the current needs from the past. Now, look, the way that the past educational system was set up was exactly what we needed in the past. It was designed to meet the societal needs and the student needs and the staff needs and the outcomes that we desired as educators. Now, I define education as human development. Like, it is the business of people. It's the business of developing humans. The children humans on our campus, as well as the adult humans on our campus, because as long as we're a human, we're constantly learning and growing and evolving and transforming and like learning and expanding ourselves. But we're feeling stuck. We're feeling frustrated. We're feeling trapped because we're trying to solve new problems with old ways of thinking, old ways of being, old structures, old systems. So I want you to think about school as an offer, right? Like you are in, let's say you are in the business, you are in the market for a brand new car. And you're thinking to yourself, I need a brand new car. This is what I need out of a brand new car. Now, what you need out of a new car is very different than what even your partner or spouse might need, or your friend, or your colleague, or your neighbor, or somebody who lives in Indiana versus Wyoming, or someone who lives in a city versus the country, or someone who lives in the South versus the North. I don't know. Like, you get my drift. You're in the market and you're going to go out and see what is available. What do people have to offer you? So different car companies offer different packages. They offer different colors. They offer different styles. They offer different models. They offer different, trucks and SUVs, small cars, large cars, you name it. It's out there, right? There's lots of offers on the table. Pretty limitless, actually. You can get about anything you want, depending on now the offer that you can accept, the offer that you want to have. So when I think about school as an offering, here's what we've offered. The institution of school, not you, not me, not an individual, but the institution of education has said, hey, based on the needs of our society back in the day, we are going to offer a building, a campus where neighborhood children can receive public education, or now private education, charter education, like education. But in the traditional sense, it was basically, here's a public building, public school with a certain number. Here's our offer. We're going to give your children public education from the fall to the spring. Summers are going to be off. There's going to be 180 days of school year. We're going to go to school approximately from 8 in the morning till around 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon or 4, depending on your schedule. But it's going to be around 8 to 4 because children have to go home and help parents in the fields, and they need to be off in the summer for working on the farms. And so we created a school year structure around the needs of the society for the time that was needed. There was a certain number of days. There was a duration of the school day, a duration of the school year. And we also said, and by the way, we're going to go from a one house classroom because now more people are more mobile. They have cars. And so we're going to go from just a one room school where it catches all of the kids in a given area, circumference. And now we have a neighborhood and we're going to split you up by grade level. Why? Because that's the easiest thing to do. All the 5-year-olds are going to be grouped, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, because we can developmentally teach at their level based on approximately what they're learning developmentally at age 5 versus 7 versus 9 versus 10. Okay. And then we think about, so that's kind of what the offer was to the public. The public's like, we need our kids to learn. We need them to read and write, learn some math, learn some skills to become an adult, to support themselves, and to contribute to the family and the greater good. And we said, okay, here's what we have to offer. Then you think about the offer that students receive. Hey, students, here's the offer that you receive from the school, the institution of education. Legally, we're going to require you to come to school. We're going to ask that by the age of 5 or 6, depending on where you live, you're going to come in. And we're going to ask you to sit down for most of the day and learn from a content expert in the room, an adult who's skilled. She's trained. He or she is trained. Don't worry. But I need you to sit, even though your body is going to tell you otherwise. I need you to learn, and we're going to push your brain, even though it's not going to want to focus. But this is what we have to offer. And the kids are like, oh, legally I have to go and I don't have positional authority. I don't have age authority. So I'm going to do what I'm told. And yes, I'm going to come, most of them. And then we think about what the teachers are being offered. Hi, teacher, please go get a credential and learn all this theory. And then you're going to try and apply that theory to your job, but we're not going to give you the real human development skills that we need in terms of like mental and emotional management, emotional regulation, like adult regulation versus child regulation. We're not going to talk about physical needs. We're going to really just talk about academic, intellectual needs. And by the way, I want you to be a content expert in all the areas. And I also want you to be really skilled at child management, at parent management, at collegial management. I want you to be skilled in collaboration. And I want you to be a team player who, please, when asked, do any and all required duties. And then school leaders, your offer is this. You're asked to do all of that and manage all of the people. So you're asked to ensure that the students are saying yes to their offer, teachers are saying yes to the offer, that parents are agreeing and complying to the offer we've provided them. You're covering all of that while also trying to hold space and grace for the emotional regulation of staff, students, families, not to mention yourself. But we're not going to teach you how to do this. We're just going to give you the keys and expect you to know how to lead from theory, not from practice. And we're not going to give you day-to-day support. We're going to expect you to figure that out on your own. Who's taking us up on the offer? Here's the thing. Oh, we all took the offer. We're like, I'm in. I want to do this. Why? The offer's not compelling if you think about it. Kids are kind of stuck because they don't have any authority over themselves. There's laws in place and their parents want them to go to school because they need daycare and they want them to learn. They want them to be socialized. So there's many amazing things about the current structure of our school. And the needs have evolved. The changes have evolved. And we, as the leader, feel all of this pressure, but without the power. Pressure without power to create, to invent, to ignite, to shift gears, to create change, or to allow growth, or to tweak something. When you are in a positional power of leadership, but you don't have the positional power to actually create a lot of change, that's tension. That's a pressure cooker ready to blow. It puts you into a state of fight or flight. That's why you're in so much internal conflict. It's all or none thinking kicking in. It's fight, and we go for it, and we argue, defend, justify, explain. We try to get in there. We get in the ring, and we like put our dukes up, and we get going, and we run that race, we run that marathon. Or we flight. We're like, I can't handle this, I'm out. Or we freeze. We just kind of wait for somebody to come in and save the day or tell us what to do. All of that is coming from a dysregulated nervous system in you. And it's not your fault, because no one's taught you how to tap into your empowerment, tap into your inspiration. So of course, fight or flight kicks in. Of course, all or none thinking kicks in. And when you are in a position without power, you have the inability to create results. There becomes a lack of results that is generated from a lack of disempowerment, from a lack of empowerment. When you feel disempowered and you don't feel you have control to create results, and then the result is that you don't get the results you want, like your test flatline, or you're always like turning teachers over or something like that, right? Where there's high turnover, or there's conflict, like the culture's not great, or the staff morale, or the scores are flatlining, or parents aren't happy, like whatever indicators you're using to determine success or failure, there typically is a lack of results because of a lack of positional power to actually change and lead the way you want. And when that happens, that leads to a lack of inspiration. You get discouraged, right? But also the flip is true. When there is a lack of inspiration, that leads to a lack of results. So it feels like you're in a catch-22. You're like, I need inspiration to create the results, but I need the results to feel inspired. What is happening? So I want to tap into the current emotions that that are being fueled here, and how these emotions are currently impacting the decisions we're making and the actions we're taking. Right now, a lot of school leaders feel very insufficient. When I mean by insufficiency, when I'm feeling insufficient, it's this identity that as this human, as this version of me, there's something about me that isn't good enough. I'm not doing enough. I am not confident enough. I'm not capable enough. I don't know enough information. I'm not skilled enough. I'm not bold enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not charismatic enough. There is something in the identity of who you are as a leader, in your self-efficacy as a leader, that you're insufficient, that there's something inherently missing from who you are. Like, I'm not good enough. The identity of insufficiency. I coach on insufficiency every single week. And I coach leaders from all over the country, top to bottom, left to right, north, south, east, west, everywhere in the country, and even in other countries. And what I see across the board is we feel insufficient. And the reason we feel insufficient is because we are being told that we're insufficient. This is why you feel this way. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. Like, we will fire you if you don't get your test scores up. There's something wrong with you. That's the message you're being told. I want to offer something, though. I'm going off track here, but I feel the need to say this for anybody who's watching this. And if you are feeling insufficient, number one, please, I invite you to come into EPC, come into the Empowered Principal Collaborative. There is no way on this green earth that you are insufficient. You are a human doing the best job that you can. You were placed in this position. You were designed for it. You were meant for it. If you are feeling insufficient at all, I want you to consider that you are not the one who's being insufficient. The person who's judging you is just actually abdicating their own feelings of insufficiency. Because if they're your leader and they're telling you you're insufficient, then they're being insufficient and supporting you to create success for you. I just want to plant that seed and keep that in mind. We'll talk about that more in EPC. That goes very deep. This program goes very deep. I'm going to try and cover as much as I can, but this is just the surface. We're just cracking the outer shell of this inspiration program. But right now, here are the primary emotions that are fueling how we show up. And it's not inspiration. I can promise you that. Insufficiency, overwhelm, confusion, fear, pressure, judgment, disbelief, doubt, discouragement, disempowerment. Those are the emotions that if your body were a tank, let's say you go to bed at night and you're plugged in and you're refueling, the fuel going into your body when you wake up and you have that panic, or you go to bed and you can't sleep, or you get the Sundays scaries and the Monday morning blues, all of that is because you're being fueled by these feelings. And the thoughts that are fueling those emotional energy points, right? No matter what I do, doesn't seem to be good enough. I'm always so busy. There's so much to do. I'm just constantly overwhelmed. I'm not sure where to start, what to do, how to prioritize. I feel confused. If I don't get these test scores up, or if I don't get these teachers on board, or if I don't fire that teacher, something bad is going to happen to me, to the students, to the teachers, to somebody. And I fear that if I don't do it perfectly, do it right, please my boss, then something very bad is going to happen. And I can't let that bad thing happen, even though I don't know what it is. People are thinking X about me. They're thinking I'm incompetent. They're thinking I'm not good enough. They're thinking I don't care. They're thinking I don't do enough. They're thinking I don't discipline children. They're thinking I am not in classrooms enough. The thoughts about what we think other people are thinking, brutal. They're painful thoughts. Discouraging thoughts. I don't even know if this is working. What am I even doing here? Like, is there any reason that I'm here? I don't have any power or control or any voice to make a difference. What is happening? I don't feel empowered. And that one breaks my heart. So if you can imagine, the offer that we have been asked to offer is completely obsolete. And I want to remind you that we have had a mindset shift. Students don't think the same thoughts. They don't have the same needs. They don't desire the same outcomes that they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years ago. Although our schools look pretty similar as they did 50, 60, 80 years ago. But the needs are different. The mindsets are different. Families have very different mindsets. Families think very differently about school now than they did 5 years ago. Teachers feel very differently about themselves and their profession and their capacity to teach than they did 5 years ago. Self-efficacy in our teachers, in our students, is different, feels different than it was 5 years ago. Because everybody was trying to fit into the offer, into the system that we currently had. When COVID hit, when the pandemic made us have to recalibrate, it invited people into different thinking. Parents have different priorities. They have different demands. They have different requests. They have different desires for their children's educational experience. Students think differently, particularly the older students, because they have a mind of their own. They can think for themselves. They have their own set of desires, their own set of priorities, their own set of curiosities and interests. And we're saying, can you please just go back to how you used to think before the pandemic? Because I don't feel very inspired when you're not inspired. And I don't really have another offer for you This is the only offer I've got, and I don't have the power to change it. So could you pretty please just go back to being the version of you, the mindset that fit the needs that we have to offer? And then you can see, here's why we feel so unsuccessful as school leaders. Here's why we are feeling uninspired. But here's the crazy thing. This is what I've been contemplating, is that it's not just you who feels uninspired. It's not only you that feels disempowered. Teachers, your support staff, other school leaders, district leaders, parents, students, they're all feeling the same discord. They're feeling the same dissonance. That same rumbling, internal rumbling of like, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel fun. This doesn't feel like we are providing the offer we said we would provide. We said we would provide students with an education. We said we would provide teachers with a healthy, fun culture, and that we would cultivate them. Our offer was for students to be progressing and to be successful and productive. But somewhere along the line, we started defining that only as intellect and academic. We started defining it as by our rules, and when I say our rules, the institution's rules, not your rules, not my rules, not even your boss's rules, the institution. Because we're working with an institution of education, an entire institution, okay? The institution no longer feels that the offer fits the needs. There's discord there. And when the offer doesn't fit the needs, it doesn't seem to be working, but you have to lead it, but not have the power. It doesn't feel like it's serving in the way it should. Teachers feel it, students feel it, parents feel it, you feel it. So we're actually all on the same page. And here's why. As human beings, we are wired. We were born into existence with a deep desire for growth, for expansion, for evolution, for personal development, for human development. Physically, we don't even have control. The body just does its thing. From the time an infant is born into the world, a newborn comes into physical existence, their body is growing and evolving and changing right before our very eyes. All we have to do is feed it, burp it, love it, change its diaper, make sure it gets sleep, like this little baby, and it develops. It's a miracle. Like, human development is a miracle. And we're in the business of human development, but we have been charged with intellectual development, with skill development, with academic development, but we're also being asked to deal with the physical development without the tools, resources, skills, education, and training. We're asked to deal with the emotional development of a human, of a student, without tools, training, resources, knowledge, understanding. We're asked to navigate the mental development of students, staff, because it's ever evolving without the tools, training, resources, guidance, support, knowledge, wisdom. We're in the business of human development, but we're trying to only focus on academic, and we're trying to only focus on intellect with a little sprinkling of maybe you get PE once a week and you get recess twice a day. And yes, we will feed you for lunch, and you can have a snack if you're behaving, and you can go play if you're behaving. But otherwise, we're here to grow your academic and your intellect. So let's get busy. And their little bodies are saying, but I need to move. my physical development is overriding, because we're lopsided, we're unbalanced, right? They're only getting intellect, only getting academic. I mean, it's top heavy, right? And we're not giving students, and we're not giving teachers, and we're not giving ourselves this balance of physical development, emotional development, mental development, psychological development, social development. We're not rounding out so that academics and intellect, yes, it's very important, but it's only one piece of the human development puzzle, which is why you feel so much angst, so much pressure, because there aren't tools. There isn't a course until now on this. How do we live in inspiration when we're expected to create the impossible, when we're expected to lead from the impossible out of nothing? We're trying to approach growth in the same way that we grew in the past. So think about this. What got us here won't get us there. When you were 2 and 3, when you were an infant before you used to walk, your mode of transportation first was people carrying you or stroller. And then you learned how to crawl, army crawl or crawl on your hands and knees. And then you developed into couch surfing. And then you developed into walking. And then you started running. And then you started skipping and you were off to the races, right? Your mode of transportation developed physically, but it also was emotionally, mentally, all of it was connected. Because there's not one that doesn't impact the other. But how you learned to crawl was not the same skill set that you needed in order to learn how to walk. And when you learn to walk, it's not the same skill set that you needed to learn how to run. And running is not the same skill set as learning how to ride your bike, your tricycle, and then your bicycle, and then being on roller skates and being on roller blades or being on a skateboard and then learning how to ski. Like all of those developmental milestones or accomplishments, what got you to walking doesn't get you to bike riding, doesn't get you to skiing. But we have a deep desire to continue to expand and evolve ourselves. Our schools are the same. What gets the things that a kindergarten teacher needs to do is not the same things that a 9th grade teacher needs to do. But yet we're like, can you just kind of follow this same basic structure? Right? So notice currently where we focus our resources in education. I think of your top resource of all time is your brain. First of all, just your existence is a miracle and you are brilliant and gifted, but your brain, that part of you is where all things are created. It's where the seeds are planted. That's where ideas develop. That's where thoughts are generated. That's where where vision, where imagination takes place. And then that imagination turns into emotional energy. And that emotional energy starts to fuel actions, planning and actions and thinking and being and doing. And that's what generates results. Your brain is everything. Invest in it. Give it a space, a container to play and ignite and to be inspired. Be around others that are inspiring. Your brain is your most precious asset. Next, and the very second thing after that is time. Because if you don't have your brain, time doesn't matter. And if you don't have time, then the physical aspects of your resources, your time, your brain and your time, then the physical resources that you have, and meaning financial resources, money, resources, physical, tangible resources, human resources, all of that doesn't matter. So your brain matters first, and then how you leverage time, spending your time, because it's not replenishable, but money and every other tangible resource, paper, platforms, curriculums, copy machines, like I'm talking like that tangible stuff, all of that's replenishable, right? So your resources go to a certain focus. You think about, like, your brain is going to focus, right? What's working, what's not working. So typically we go, here's what's not working. Fix these things. But we don't slow enough down in education to say, hey, What is working? Well, nothing's working. Is that true? Nothing's working? Nothing is working. No students are making progress. No teachers are doing their job. Nobody's happy. You are having zero impact. You are zero inspired. Nothing's working. Okay, let's list everything that isn't working. Let the brain have its way. What's not working? Tell me the woes. Tell me all your troubles. Now I'm going to ask you again. What is working? We have to focus on what is working. Not because we want to just hip, hip, hooray and feel good and cheer ourselves up. It's because why would we change what's working? And because our brain defaults to what's not working, we have to intentionally look at what's working. And let me tell you a little secret. When you give equal airtime to what isn't working and what is working, and you're like, oh, I also would like to look at what is working, it feels good. And guess what? When you're like, oh my gosh, there's actually so many amazing things working, guess what? Inspiration is coming. Inspiration feels like it's percolating. It's entering into your energy and your body. It feels good. When you're looking for evidence to prove what's working, guess what? You'll find it. And then you can build on that as a foundation to problem solve for the things you want to improve. So there's what is working. If you don't focus on what's working, don't do the rest of the exercise, because that's what everybody else does. That's what's typical. That's the traditional problem solving method. Okay, we're going to look at the test scores. Yeah, these guys did great. But look at the 60% who didn't, or look at the 40% who didn't, or look at the 30% who didn't. What are we going to do about them? Not celebrating, not acknowledging, not studying what we did right over here. We look at what we didn't do right. That doesn't feel inspiring. That's where self-efficacy drops. That's where empowerment drops. That's where discouragement rises. That's where people start to feel overwhelmed. They start to feel that they're insufficient. Equal airtime. So there's what is working, there's what isn't working. And eventually what happens after we study what's not working, we come up with a theory of what we think is the problem and what we think the solution is. We're like, okay, here's where we're at, and here's where we want to be. And this is what I think isn't working. By the way, what's not working, it's only speculation anyway, because we don't really know, but we speculate and we're like, the teachers, or we're like, the superintendent, or we think the school board, or we think this curriculum, or we think that grade level. No. The problem is self-efficacy. The problem is inspiration, a lack of inspiration. Your only job as a school leader ever is to inspire people into higher and higher levels of self-efficacy. And the way that you do that is to be inspired and to up-level your self-identity, your self-efficacy, your self-belief in you. When you're feeling amazing about you, you present as amazing and you feel better about your staff. You see them in a different lens, through a different lens. So the process I use with my principals is what's working and what's not. And then what's our theory? If we were going to improve one thing this year from A to B, what's the gap? How are we going to bridge the gap from where we're at to what outcome we'd like to experience? That's typically what happens. Now, most people don't even focus on what's working. They're like, what's not working? And they grind on that. And then they look for what's not working and they end up finding more and more and more things. They just go down this rabbit hole of all the things that aren't working. And all of a sudden they feel overwhelmed and nobody's inspired. But there's one thing we haven't tapped into. This is something we don't contemplate in schools, which is why I created a container so that we can contemplate it here. How we want to feel. How you want to feel as a school leader. Think about this. if I were to ask you, if you and I were looking at each other in the eyes and I said, how do you feel about yourself as a school leader? What would come up? If I asked you, how do you feel on a daily basis? What are your top 3 emotions? What would you say? I want you to sit with that. What is the emotional fuel driving your day-to-day experience currently as a school leader? Do you think about that? Do you wonder why you feel the way you feel? You might kind of think about that, but I want you to really think about emotional energy because it's everything. It is the experience that you're creating that determines how you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, how you identify as a school leader, the stories that you tell about yourself as a school leader, the story that you tell about yourself at the end of your life. I was a great school leader. Here's all the wonderful memories. Or, oh, that was a terrible experience. That was so hard. Blame, abdicate, shame yourself, feel bad. I was insufficient. Like, is that the story you want to tell to your grandchildren one day? Well, I was really bad as a school. You're sitting on your rocking chair. I was really bad as a school leader. It was a terrible time in my life. That chapter was horrible. Or do you want to say, like, I was amazing. I took such good care of myself, such good care of my staff, such good care of my school. I got up every day wanting to be there, just looking at the brilliance and the happiness and the love and the joy. And I adored solving problems with my staff. But what I didn't do was focus on all of the negative. I didn't let that impact me. What I did do was inspire people through my own inspiration. How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel inspired? Do you want that to be the fuel, waking you up each day, going into work each day? So think about this. How do you want to feel, and how do you want to allow others, and how can we as school leaders allow ourselves to co-create the educational and professional experience that our teachers also want to have? We want to think about how teachers want to feel. How do we want to feel? How do teachers want to feel? How do students want to feel? Here's why we typically don't ask this question in education. We think it's a loaded gun. We think that if we ask people how they want to feel, we're afraid that everybody's going to want to feel something different. We're afraid we're not going to be able to handle or accommodate it. We're not going to be able to people please all the people because they're going to want different things. We think that if we ask people what they actually desire, what they desire is going to be in conflict with one another. It's going to be in opposition of one another. And we as the leader are not going to be able to manage it. So we're like, are you crazy? We're not even going to ask that question. But here's the truth. You are already managing the discord, the opposition, the dissonance of emotion. This is what makes me smile every time I think about this. And as I contemplate the current experience that school leaders are having, it's already here. This exact experience. You get up every day. You are already in the experience of people having different desires and different desired outcomes, different demands, different emotional needs, different requests, different intellectual needs, different professional skill needs, different styles, different levels of support. Everything's different already. We're already dealing with the emotions. The emotions don't go away because we don't ask about them. We actually create some structure around them when we ask them. So there's nothing to fear about emotion. Emotions are simply vibrations in the body. It's the energy that fuels our decisions and actions. So when we're happy and we're feeling good about ourselves, we see the world in a brighter light, right? We respond happily. We make decisions with more ease and confidence. We are kinder to people. We smile more. We enjoy the day more. And when we're unhappy, So I think of emotions as a spectrum, a full spectrum, right? There's the positive side, the good feelings, and then there's the negative, things that don't feel good. So there's two, basically positive emotion, negative emotion, good, bad, right? We identify them as, we have all these labels and names, but really good emotions, bad emotions, desired emotions, undesired emotions, positive emotions, negative emotions. So when we're unhappy and we're grumpy, or we just got reamed by our boss and we're feeling that horrible pit in the stomach, like shame, embarrassment, guilt, just like discouraged, the lens that we look through the world is to the world is different. We see people differently, we respond differently, we're in a mood. We might put off things because we're like annoyed, or we might not want to talk to people, or we start complaining or venting, or we project our frustration and anger, negativity out onto other people, but we respond to that unhappy energy with our decisions and our actions. If you just walk away noticing that much, you've created an awareness that blows most people's minds. Being aware of your energy, and when I mean energy, it's just your emotional, how you feel. Being aware of that is already profound, because most people have no idea how they feel. They're never asked the question. They don't know. But here's the brilliant thing about inspiration. Inspiration, it's not a thing. It's not something you either have or you don't. It's not a character trait. It's an emotion that you feel. You feel inspired, or you feel inspiring based on your thoughts and beliefs. So for us as school leaders to be inspiring, we need to generate the emotional energy, the feelings of inspiration. I want to feel inspired. I want you to think about how it feels right now. If you're watching this live, I want you to what feels when you think, I feel inspired right now. I feel inspired to read a book, or I feel inspired to take a walk, or I feel inspired to take this course, or I feel inspired to join EPC, or I feel inspired to go out with my husband tonight for dinner, or I feel inspired to hang in, let's do movie night with the kids. Something that you feel inspired to do. It's momentum. Inspiration is energetic feeling momentum that moves you into decisions and actions that generate the experience you want to have. Where you pop popcorn and you get cozy with your kids, you put on a really good movie. Or it's a beautiful day, you go out for ice cream after dinner. Or you take a lovely walk in the neighborhood. Or you're so tired, you're just going to go to bed at 7 p.m. and read a book until you fall asleep. Or you're inspired to work this evening. Or you're inspired to do nothing and just sit and enjoy the sunset. Think about how it feels to be inspiring. Now that's different. Being inspired is energy that you feel compelled to go make decisions and take actions to create a result for yourself. To be inspiring is to show up in the leadership energy of inspiring others. I feel inspired to inspire you. And I'm thinking about ways that I can inspire you, invite you into your empowerment, to your personal power, to your brilliance, to what you want. Inspiration is an identity. You identify with certain emotions. I'm a happy person. I wake up I'm not a morning person. I work out. I'm a person who works out. I identify as a person who works out. I identify as a person who doesn't work out. I identify as being married. I identify as being single. I identify as being in a partnership. I identify as it's complicated, right? I identify as a leader who fill in the blank. What is your identity? Is your identity inspiration? I identify, I am an inspired leader. I am an empowered principal. It's an identity. It's who we are. It's the fuel that we put into our tank, our mental tank, our emotional tank, our physical energy that drives us, that compels us, that inspires us. So I know you'll ask, but how do I feel inspired when things are so hard? Everything's so hard. How can I be inspired when I'm overwhelmed and I have no authority, I have no position? Re-examine what you're focusing on. What do you focus on more? What's working? And looking for inspiration and reasons to inspire people and to give them that feedback that's inspiring, that helps them identify and build their self-efficacy as a teacher? Or do you focus on what's not? Do you think more about the teachers that aren't making it versus the teachers that are? Are you studying the teachers who are rock stars and asking them, what's your identity? How do you feel about yourself? How do you think about yourself? How did you get into those thoughts about yourself? How did you step into this identity as a teacher? How can we inspire our new teachers or our teachers that feel disgruntled or disorganized or they're discouraged? How do we inspire them? Or are you like, I got to fire these 3 people? They're not inspired. They're not doing anything. Are you focusing more on the times you feel good and choosing to feel good? Or are you focusing more on feeling negative? So as you're contemplating your identity as an inspired principal, here are some thoughts that can help you reimagine and reconnect and up-level your identity into empowerment. There's plenty of time for what matters. And if you notice how that's true, what needs to get done always does get done. There's always plenty of time for what matters. There is always something to do. I want you to know that. That's why it's work. But I am in control. I decide how I spend my time and my energy and my attention. I want you to feel that. The calmness, the certainty, the groundedness that comes with what needs to get done always gets done. There's plenty of time. I don't have to run around like a chicken with my head cut off. I don't have to rush. I don't have to pressure. I don't have to overschedule, overexert, overwork. I am going to decide with intention how I spend my time and my energy. What we're doing is working. Can you imagine if you believed that the decisions and actions that you were taking were the right decisions and that what you were doing in this day, in this week, in this school year was working? Because you're understanding that you are in the process of development. There is no end destination. There's birth and there's the passing of our physical body. We are developing from the time we are born until the time we pass away. There's no point along the spectrum where we're not developing. Even in moments of stagnation, where it feels like a plateau or it feels like we're stuck or it seems like a student's not progressing, there is some form of development happening. We're always, as humans, we are always in the evolutionary process. Sometimes it looks physical, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's academic, sometimes it's intellectual, sometimes it's social, sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's professional. Somewhere, every human that you work with is developing. Let's focus on that and celebrate the progress they're making in whatever realm it is in their life that they're developing. Our work is a constant evolution. We are a masterpiece in creation. Students are a masterpiece in creation. And so are teachers. So are superintendents, by the way. Imagine the identity that you inspire and invite people to be inspired. You inspire and invite people to contemplate. You inspire and invite people into their greatness. You inspire, invite people to trust in themselves, to trust in them, to trust in you, to trust the process, to trust students, to trust that the institution of education is so much bigger than one test score or one semester or 1 year. I used to tell my teachers who would be so frustrated, they're like, all but 3 of my kids made it. And I'll say, not to worry. If you're in first grade and you got all but 3 of those kids to grade level, let's say in math, and there's 3 that are still not considered grade level, they've got second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way up. They have so much time to develop. Some kids are going to get it in first grade. Some are going to get it in second grade. But what we aren't doing with those 3 kids is we're not acknowledging the growth they did make. Because the standard, the baseline that we say they have to cross this particular finish line, that's nebulous, by the way, number 1. Number 2, I guarantee they made some kind of growth. If not in math, they made it in language arts, or they made it in PE, or they made it socially, or they made it maturely. Maybe they emotionally were able to regulate. Maybe they were able to make friends. Maybe they survived a parent's going through a divorce. Maybe they were able to make it to school even when parents were going through something unimaginable. We never know, but there is development going on. Leadership's not about controlling and getting others to behave in certain ways. It's about being in inspiration ourselves, being the model of inspiration, and then inviting them into what inspires them. Your goal is to feel good, to be aligned, to make decisions, and to take action with integrity, alignment for you. When you are aligned, you can handle and hold space for other people. Emotional maturity and integrity is the most inspired version of yourself. Emotional maturity. Being able to connect with, understand, acknowledge, allow, process, feel the feels, not avoid the negative. Invite it in, let it in, feel it, talk with it, acknowledge it, explore it. Why am I feeling this way? How do I want to feel? So some guiding questions as we close out this session are, what do you want to experience this coming year as a school leader? What do you want to experience? What is the experience you want to create for yourself as a leader? How do you want to feel about yourself, your school, your other people you're working with? So what do you want to experience and how do you want to feel? Okay. If inspired is how you want to feel, what do you need to focus on? What do you need to think about to be inspired? This is what inspiration is. It's an emotion and an identity. And the key is to know how to create that awareness using your emotional guide, using your emotions to process and express yourself, to be in alignment with the identity that you want to have as an inspired principal. And there's no right or wrong way to lead your school. There's the way that feels right for you. That's what inspiration is. Because I'll tell you something really special about you. You are the prize. You are the prize. Inspiration comes from within. You are the prize for your school, for those students, for those staff members, for that district that you work for. You are the prize. You're the one. You're the prize. When you believe in yourself, when you trust yourself, when you celebrate yourself, when you cherish yourself, you step into inspiration and empowerment within yourself. You identify as an empowered principal. And then you become inspiring through that personal growth, through your own evolution as a human, through your own development as a leader. You are the inspiration. So for those of you who feel compelled, the Empowered Principal Collaborative is the container for school leaders who want to feel inspired and stay in inspiration, to cultivate it and to identify with it. So EPC is my signature program in the Empowered Principal series. It's my best offer. It's my favorite offer. And it is all inclusive. When you join EPC, especially if you join now, you're going to receive bonus planning sessions throughout the month of August. I might sneak some in June and July just for you. if you're a brand new principal, you're going to want to start planning ASAP because you're so inspired. And if you're in EPC, all you need to do is ask, and I shall create. I think I will do that. I think I will, just for you, because I'm inspired to ensure your success. So what's included in EPC? The entire Empowered Principal Leadership Mastery series. So I cover time mastery, planning mastery, balance mastery, relationship mastery, leadership mastery, communication mastery, and emotional maturity, and how to regulate and navigate all of the emotions, which is what this whole thing, this whole job's about, right? And then there's bonus material that you have access to: vision creation and implementation, kicking off the school year, the mid-year reboot, building team, hiring and firing, all things HR, the Inspired program, the Impacta program, and the student and teacher journey. If you sign up before June 1st, so if you're watching this live or you're catching the replay before June 1st of 2024, I'm going to give you a very special offer. You're going to receive $500 off the full price of EPC because you're an early adopter, you're being a pioneer in the field of education, and you're helping me and you're helping yourself cultivate and evolve the institution of education. We are pioneers in this conversation. This is the only container having these conversations, to my knowledge. Not to mention, if you sign up before June 1st, you're going to be a part of the Summer of Fun Challenge in June and July. I do an amazing, super fun, lighthearted celebration of the summer, and I invite and encourage school leaders to have as much fun as possible. There's a Facebook group. You join in, you post all the fun you're having. Your name goes into a drawing. I have weekly prizes that I send to people. It's a blast. So you can join that if you're watching this before June of 1st of 24, sorry. And there's also the bonus planning sessions in August. And I think I might do a few of them in June and July if you would love that. So if you feel compelled to have these conversations and you want to learn more about how to be an empowered principal, how to be inspired, and to go deep into these conversations, you don't just want to go into school leadership and then for 5, 10, 15 years spin around on the merry-go-round of the same thing over and over. For people who are like drawn to this work that I do, they want to go deeper, to be more authentic, to be more authentically inspired so that they can create the impact and that they can offer and serve in the new way, in the way that students and families and teachers need you and want you and desire to be served. And then that will inspire them to do the same. So this work is an evolution. It is a masterpiece in the making. You are the artist and the masterpiece. You are all the co-creators of this experience. So I invite you into EPC, the Empowered Principal Collaborative. If you want more information or you want to talk with me personally, you can do a Q&A. If you go to my website and you contact me or work with me, you can schedule a 15-minute consult, and you can schedule a full consultation, which is around 45 minutes, to Q&A with me about EPC and about the next steps. All right, my friends, have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your day and rest of your school year, and I'll talk with you soon. I'll see you at Impact next week, and it is Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time next Tuesday. All right, my friends, have a great week. Take good care.